this section, we're going to briefly talk about color theory. Now, the word color theory is interesting because everyone has their idea of colors. Everyone has their rules. Everyone has, what they want to do. And I feel like color is so inherently based off of emotion. And some people don't really even believe in adding a look and feel to images. And honestly, even on the client side, they will process quite neutrally and then retouch in a way where the skin color is corrected. But then when it comes to changing and shifting the colors of an image, that's a conversation that needs to be had and discussed prior to working on any image that you do. Like for example, let's say that you have a theme that you want to accomplish. Maybe you saw a movie where you saw a color palette that you liked and you brought it into Photoshop. Maybe you took a still and then you started sampling colors from the image and you saw that they were using particular color schemes. My goal isn't to tell you what you should like in terms of color. It's like me trying to tell you what car to like or what foods to like. But what this is actually just an open conversation and showing you some tools to use in order to apply specific colors and how to apply them in quick and easy ways. Now, I'm not a color master. I'm not somebody who's known for their color work. I am more known for my skin work, the skin retouching processes, the cleanup, the hair, the compositing, all of that stuff. But when it comes to color, I prefer correcting color rather than adding tones and looks and everything like that. That's not my particular style. I feel like, people like Tim Tatter or Eric Almas or Danny Diamond, they have styles that are very specific to how they light things or the schemes that they use. They're very deliberate and they explain in such abstract ways. It's very unique and interesting. And when you look at people like that and you look at their final images, even their images are totally different from each other, even though they all understand color in very similar ways, for example. So one thing that really helped me as somebody who came from a background of not understanding color just by trying to explain it was very visual. I'm a very visual person. I don't know why certain colors look too good together. I honestly don't, There are a lot of great tools out there. If you look at Natalia Taffarel, she has a great color guide online from Wacom, which talks a lot about how they relate to each other, how they are, complementary and they contrast and how to modify them. She has a brilliant mind when it comes to color. But my mind doesn't work the exact same way. And I mention all this because this is something that I feel a lot of people are in the same situation. They need as much help as they can to understand, quick and easy ways to help them apply, but also see harmonies that could work in their images. Now, one of the reasons why I want you to get into the thought process of thinking on what scheme you want before shooting is that sometimes a lot of looks, like you'll see on my website, come from images that are thought of beforehand. Maybe the styling was done accordingly. They did a mood board where they decided to have pastels. That was the theme. They used pastel dresses, the backdrops were pastel colors, and it all came together very beautifully in a way where even the model's skin tones were predetermined, where it wasn't pale, but it was certain shades of tan to match the whole mood board. Everything was deliberate. I have a white series that I did on my website, shot by Alexander Saladrigas, who we shot for a really high-end magazine. And in that magazine, the whole color scheme was white. They picked pale models. They, spent a month in casting to get the right group of people. The clothes were all white. And what it looked like was I had color toned that image. But in reality, there wasn't much done to it. So when you think of color toning and you look at an image, think outside Photoshop. Think about what colors were used in that photograph. A lot of times, I have seen a lot of great fine art photographers, and I have seen their before files. I was blown away in seeing that a lot of their work wasn't actually color toned after the fact, but it was actually something that they had pre-thought of on set. When you look at a site like this with a color.adobe.com, you can get an easy sense of how to balance colors out. And for instance, if I look at the color rule over here and click on, let's say complementary, because that's pretty standard. And if I take the cursor here and go around the color wheel, you'll see colors that are complementary to each other. A typical complementary color scheme would be something like this, where it's cyan and orange, or yellow, or depending on whatever you want to call it. I would say orange, and I would say cyan. That seems to be a color scheme that is very reminiscent of Mad Max and pretty much any poster that Hollywood has seemingly come out with in the last 1,000,000 years. And you have also other color schemes that are really beautiful just by going on the color wheel. For me personally, this is all, again, based on choice and taste. But there's also different color schemes like triad, where you have 3 complementary tones, where you have over here, on one side, you have this like yellow-orange color. Let's keep it to orange. But instead of being cyan, it's split up into these 3, like purple, magenta, and you have this green. Then you have all sorts of other ones as well that are, again, not really necessary unless you have a reason for these particular colors per se, but it gives you an option to at least play around and see what you could do with these. Then you have different shades you can pick. Like, for example, if I pick a cyan, what it does over here is it gives you these different shades. Now, the coolest part about all of this is that if you wanted to, say, use the complementary color scheme or analogous color scheme, where I spread it out like this, and suddenly I have these multiple range of colors, I can then use them into Photoshop as well. And now what we'll do is take these color schemes and these tools, and I'll show you how to apply them in Photoshop.